1370 WOCA. Ocala.
Diamonds in the sunset, now your time has come.
All right, 24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. A good idea is a good idea, Robin.
Yeah.
Our next guest has a really good idea. An idea that probably is bigger than maybe she even realizes. And I'm not trying to overhype something, but you'll see why I say that in just a minute. Dianne Maroney is on the phone. She's a registered nurse, and she's the founder of something called the Imagine Project. She worked for 15 years as a neonatal intensive care nurse. She works in the mental health field, helping families with premature infants deal with the traumatic effects of early birth. She's an inspirational speaker, and her book is called the Imagine Project. Stories of courage, hope, and love. And here's why I seem to have hyped it a little bit. Because I've often thought that the way... well, let me just change the way I'm going to say this. If you look at the effect of social media, if you look at the effect of the ability to communicate with somebody instantly across the world, right? And not only just communicate with them one-on-one, but maybe do it in a public forum, like a Facebook or something like that. And you start to realize that, wow, that person, on the exact opposite side of the world or 10 miles away or in the rich part of town or the poor part of town, they've got kind of the same concerns and hopes and dreams that I have, depending on it doesn't matter who I am. Mm-hmm. We're more alike than we are different, but at the same time, we are different. And if you could possibly put yourself into somebody else's shoes, we do this all the time when we talk about debate, right? We say debate is nothing unless you put yourself in the shoes of the person who actually has to make that decision, whatever it is you're debating. The Imagine Project seems to do that, and it does it by letting us as readers not literally live in somebody else's shoes, but as close as possible, simply by hearing the stories from different people. Dianne Maroney is on the phone. She's going to fill in the blanks, because I'm sure you have some questions based on what I just said. TheImagineProject.com is the website, by the way. We'll mention that again. Dianne Maroney. Good morning, Dianne.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm actually in Nashville. I live in Denver, but I'm here picking up my daughter from college, and my other son lives here as well.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, it's a great city.
This sounds like a dose of wisdom. It sounds like you are obviously smart, but more importantly than smart, you've got some wisdom. Have you always been like the little thoughtful girl when you were a little girl?
Well, yeah, thank you for saying that. That's really nice. I kind of been the person that gets people to tell their story for some reason. And,
really?
When they look at me, they feel like I know them for some reason. So
isn't that
I don't know why.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Because by telling you their story, you then tell us their story, and it helps us understand whatever it is they're going through. So who, in this particular book, who is profiled?
Well, it's a cross-section of people from all over the country, and I tried really hard to get a cross-section of, as many people as I could in a book of different types of people. There's people with cancer, there's people who fought bullying, there's somebody from Columbine that was in Columbine when it happened.
My goodness.
There's two doctors that were in the ER the night of the Aurora shooting. There's people who came from affluent means, and they started organizations to help in Thailand with sex trafficking. It's just a beautiful cross-section of people. It's people who, grew up very poor or even homeless and have, found a way to make their life beautiful. And I'm really proud of it, actually.
I'm sure that the book is going to affect the reader. How did the interviews affect you?
Well, I was just thinking about that earlier, kind of the more profound ones. And there were some, like Bucky, who was diagnosed with stage 4 brain tumor, that and Jim Cotter, who went back to his little town of Gloucester, Ohio, and painted all the buildings on the outside, so to bring the pride back to his town. And you walk away from those, and you just feel like you just want to stay with them, because you just want to stay next to their energy, and they're just so full of love and life. And then there was a couple of them that the two people that were homeless Randall took us to a homeless camp, they call it, for teenagers, and it had been abandoned, but it was behind a building. And it was just so profound because there was this trash everywhere, and there was these signs that say, "Help me, please help me." And he would pick up the little pieces of trash, the little books that they had left there or something, and he would show us and give us meaning to what their life was like.
Wow.
And then there was Karina, who actually was homeless, and she, during her senior year of high school, lived in a trash can, a dumpster. She'd go to the library after school and stay there until it closed, and then she'd go live in the dumpster behind her school, and she graduated top 10 in her class and was given a full-ride scholarship to a prominent university.
Can I interject a question?
Sure.
Please? Well, wasn't there any kind of curiosity among the school administrators, because you have to have parent signatures on things, and you have to have an address where they can mail your report cards and different kinds of paperwork throughout the year. How did she get around that?
She tricked them. She tricked them because she didn't want to tell them that she was homeless because she didn't want to go to another foster home.
Oh.
So she said she thinks the janitors knew, because she'd get up right when she heard him come in the back door, and she'd go in and take a shower, and she kept all of her stuff in she had two different lockers. But she was doing so well in school that she kind of, stayed behind the scenes.
Wow.
And I actually know one of her teachers, and he said, I never knew until the day before she graduated. She told them.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
I know. Pretty amazing.
And that just shows you what we can do with courage and with determination. There was a report when I guess Facebook was bragging about their numbers, and rightfully so. I'm not picking on them, but it was equated that I guess we spend 1 million years of time or something like that collectively on Facebook. Or something like that. I'm probably saying the wrong number. But the point is, it was measured in years. The amount of time that we spend on Facebook each day is measured in like hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of years. Okay, so just imagine if we all took just 5 minutes of those millions of years that we spend on Facebook and did something to help somebody, which is what I think your book is going to... I actually think this is what's going to happen. Somebody's going to read that particular story and say, wow, we've got somebody who's so wants so badly to make themselves better that they're willing to go through that. Maybe we can make that process a little bit easier and give an extra $10 to the local shelter so she can get out of the dumpster and into the shelter.
I hope so. I really do. I mean, the premise behind the book is, ever since 9/11, the world has felt a little broken to me, and I just wanted something to show that the world is a great place, and we can each do our part to make it even better. We get bombarded with so much negativity that I'm hopeful that this is a positive.
Oh yeah.
Side of life.
You mentioned the philanthropists who were trying to help out with the human trafficking. The exact opposite of that was profiled on something I was watching online. It was some TV undercover story, and it followed this guy from here in America, maybe Ohio. I can't remember where he was from. But the point is, this guy spent whatever amount of money he needed to spend to go have sex with somebody all the way on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
In an illicit sex at that, and probably with somebody who was a slave to somebody, And so, in other words, that profile showed us the worst of humanity. I mean, this is the absolute pig of the world,
Right.
And yet, blowing all that money for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always remember the scene in Schindler's List where at the end, if you remember the movie, Oscar Schindler looks at the ring on his finger, and he realizes he could have saved some more people if he traded in the gold in that ring, because he became so obsessed with saving people's lives that every penny he had was spent on that. And then he realized at the end of World War II that he could have, at least according to Steven Spielberg, we don't know if that really happened, but but still, it says something. It said something to me. It said something to me that, look, I could spend an extra whatever. I can send an extra $1 or something to muscular dystrophy or something like that. And if we all did that, what a better place, right?
Absolutely. There's a woman in the book who's from Kansas, and she lost her husband. They were farmers. And she lost her husband suddenly from a heart attack. And when she went to the bank, it turns out they were $1 million in debt because of the drought.
Oh.
And I'm sorry. And they didn't know that. I mean, she didn't know it. Her husband hadn't give her any clue that was happening. And so once she found this out, she was devastated because she didn't have the money to pay back. And then the community came together and started doing her farming for her. And then the rains came and the crops came, and she just moved forward. Everybody came together and found a way. And that's what our world's about. That's what our country is about. And that's what we need to showcase, and it just feels so good to hear those stories.
Of all the things you could have named your project, I love what you've chosen, the Imagine Project.
Thank you.
Is there a story behind the decision to call it that?
Well, the format of the book, I don't know if you were able to see the format of the book.
I don't think one arrived, no.
No, it's en route. We haven't received it yet.
Oh, okay. The format of the book is every sentence in the story starts with the word imagine. And so, I used to use this when I used to travel around the country. I used to be a preemie nurse, as you said, and then my daughter was born premature. She only weighed 1 pound, 12 ounces, the one I'm picking up from college.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, isn't that great? And then, and so when I would travel to try to educate medical professionals about the plight of parents. And I would read stories, and every sentence started with the word imagine, and I realized how profound the format is to really pull you into the story. So the stories are short. They're only a page, maybe a page and a half max, but each sentence is so precise and profound, and it starts with the word imagine. So you're imagining pulling into this person's story. And imagine is such a beautiful word, and we know it from John Lennon so well, but it just helps you get there. It helps you dream about something other than what your own reality is for a moment.
It does. I've heard the expression that every great invention happened because somebody said, how could we, which is kind of the same way of saying imagine, how could we build a boat that would go across this ocean? How could we communicate with somebody across it's always a question that, well, once you ask the question, then it begs for an answer.
Absolutely, and we're imagining these people's lives.
And you do more than just words. You have photographs also.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see those online, and they're very, very moving. How did your photographer, what was his name, Mario Masidi, how did he manage to get them to trust him to take their picture that, they would be used for good and not for anything bad?
Mario is just such a great guy. He's young. He's only about 20. Well, he's 26 now, but he started with me and he was 22 or 23, and he's just got away with people, and that's why I picked him. He actually did my daughter's senior photos, and when I saw the photos, you could just see her soul in these, and she's been through a lot in her life. And so I just asked him if he would do it, and he just has a way he's funny, he's sweet, he just has a way behind the camera. The people loved him. Everybody loved him.
Wow.
Part of what you have in the prep material for this interview was a series of codes for donating to different organizations. Explain that.
Yes, on the Buy the Book page, and it's also on the mission page of the website, you can, it's explained on the mission page, I guess. But for each person in the book, they have either something that they need themselves, one of the women in the book gave up a child for adoption many years ago and is going to use any money donated to her to find her son. And then the woman I told you about with the sex trafficking, she has an organization called the Soul Project. So on the Imagine page, everybody who's in the book has their first name, and then that's the code, and then the organization or what they're going to donate or use their money for. When you buy the book, $10, if you put one of their names in there, for like Andy or Foster or whatever names, their first name of the person in the book, into the coupon code box, then $10 goes to them or their organization. $10 of the purchase of the book.
Wow. That's really good. Outside the window from where we broadcast, as we talk, I can see lizards, little tiny, what do you call it, anole lizards or something? Okay, the little tiny lizards, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now those lizards have an amazing ability. I'm not telling you anything new, but I'm leading to something, because one of the organizations is the Paralympics. I wanted to connect it with that. If you catch one of those lizards by the tail will break off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody knows that. Now, they have an amazing ability to regenerate a new town.
Yes.
I've often thought, I'm going to use your approach to this. Imagine if we could study that function that a lizard has and figure out a way to regrow limbs.
Mm-hmm.
So that soldiers who have lost their limbs through explosions, maybe people who were born without limbs, the unfortunate victims of the terrorist bombing a couple weeks ago in Boston. I mean, can you imagine? There you go. There's your word.
Absolutely.
Because there's a clue right there. That lizard outside has within itself a clue as to how we could make this happen for humans.
Absolutely. And we can imagine anything. We can imagine anything. And in the book, on the website, what I hope is that people will come to me and write their own imagined stories and submit them, because it's just really powerful to put your life in words.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about the fourth grade punctuation and stuff. We can just say imagine, and imagine your life, and everything starts with the word imagine. And
you know what I would like to imagine? I would like to imagine that a woman could walk through the worst part of the city any time of the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not have to fear one bit for her life. I would like to imagine that we don't need locks on our doors anymore. I would like to, in other words, the things I'd like to imagine are all about human attitude and human compassion for one another. There was a story after the tsunami in Japan that kind of spoke about the differences in our cultures. All the devastation there, all the businesses that were still standing, but and with merchandise in them, not one case of looting happened.
wow.
Not one case of looting. And because of their culture, they just don't believe, look, that's your stuff, I'm not touching your stuff. I'm not saying there's no crime in Japan. I'm just saying that there was a story about the fact that there was no looting at all. Obviously, Katrina, there was lots of looting. I mean, and I'm not picking on New Orleans. I'm just saying we as Americans somehow don't have that level of
See, I think that's a perception, because I think that there's a lot of people in the United States that wouldn't loot, and we focus on those that would, and this book is focusing on the people that wouldn't, the people that have the part of themselves that respect themselves and respect others. And what I want people to remember is to say, the world is a really good place, and there are a lot of really good people, and when I face something, I can face it, and I can make the best of it. And I don't have to go do anything, like looting or do anything wrong. I can stand on my own, and with the help of others, we can make it through this.
Sure. And that's beautiful. That is what faith is about. I mean, faith is about saying, I don't need to worry about tomorrow, because I will be taken care of by God, by my brothers, by somebody,
The story about the two doctors in the Aurora shooting, when I asked them to be in it, I didn't know what they would say. And they talked about how they explained the scenario in the book. And then they talk about how difficult it was and how it was so life-changing for them. And yet at the end they say not one person died that was brought into that ER. That's a miracle.
Wow.
So they see it, from that perspective instead of it's not that they're ignoring the tragedy,
right.
but they're just embracing something out of it, what their experience was.
And the emotional, but the emotional perspective of it is truly amazing. I'm still going back to the young lady that graduated with honors from high school. I mean, how many people are in this world that they come from regular families? They have some kind of money to sustain themselves. They have friends. But yet, they come up with these things, well, I can't succeed because I have depression. I can't succeed because of this, because of that. And yet this young lady, she didn't have anything but herself.
Yeah, right.
And she just, went over that. She didn't do that fallback thing to, force others to help her.
Right. She's so inspiring. She's amazing.
We had the guy on from the guy that did the famous Amos cookies. Do you remember his name?
Wally Ames.
Wally Ames, yeah. He was one of those success stories that he was like, at the bottom of the scrape in the barrel or whatever you call it. And then he said, you know what, maybe I could sell cookies. I mean, right there. Imagine.
Really? I didn't know that.
Imagine if I could sell cookies, and I doubt that he thought it'd become a household name. But I guess he probably imagine if I could just pull myself out of this little mess by baking some cookies. Who knew that it was going to lead to this cookie empire that he made?
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, I'm looking at a story on my computer right now of one of the people in the book, and his name is Foster Bailey, and it's an intense story. Some of them are really intense, but he lost his sister to a murder-suicide. And it was in a major snowstorm, and he went to grab his niece and his two nephews. And then, so he took his two nephews in with his girlfriend, and they started parenting right away. And he's funny in it because he says something about imagine that the only thing he remembers about parenting is a lot of hot chocolates involved. And then his house burned down shortly after this happened. And they ended up moving to the city, and the two little boys loved it. But his last imagine reads, imagine life changing your plans, and you don't even bother looking for the old set. I mean, isn't that cool that he brings it around to this tragedy to taking in these boys and marrying his girlfriend, and they start this family, and he loves it, and he doesn't look back. It's just really profound.
Well, you have been gifted with a wonderful way of sharing your optimism so that the rest of us are affected by it, and that's a real gift. And as I said in the intro, probably will go beyond what you'll ever know.
And you yourself, since you have experienced this, your book and your entire project gives more credence than to somebody who just takes up a cause and they haven't really been through it.
Oh, thank you.
That's true.
It's true. I have been through a lot in my life, and it took a little work to get this positive attitude, but it's so much easier, and you just enjoy life so much when you look at life from a positive perspective.
And how do you manage to get into the heart and soul of the families that do have the babies that are born prematurely to convince them that this baby will grow up happy and healthy and just with a lot of love?
Well, I work hard at that because believing that is a really big, huge piece of it. And I first of all, I get to show them my daughter and how amazing she is and how well she's done. And I just tell them, every single day, see your baby as being absolutely perfect. And that's the best thing that you can do for your child. And then build on that and take care of the other pieces along the way, but don't forget to see them as being absolutely perfect. And there's something about saying that they brighten up and they remember that their baby is perfect no matter what.
Mother's Day is Sunday, and hopefully, at the risk of sounding corny, I will say something. Hopefully nobody will think it's too corny. But I think all of you ladies who have chosen to be mothers are heroes. No, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mother.
Yeah, me neither.
Absolutely.
For my mother.
And anyway, so one of the things it says in the notes is give a round of applause to a hero, and I suppose that's what we're doing on Sunday, is giving a round of applause to the moms.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, that's for sure.
Thank you for being on the air with us. You've inspired us just with this interview. I'm looking forward to seeing the book. How do we get the book?
You go on the website. It's www.theimagineproject.com. There's another website that's Imagine Project that's also really great, but it's theimagineproject.com. It should be available on Amazon soon, maybe even this week. But go to the website. Now, if you want to donate, especially to one of the causes, then you have to do it through the website.
Okay, so use the word "the."
Yes.
theimagineproject.com. And real quickly, just looking at the photograph of the book, as I mentioned, the book has not arrived yet. It looks like one of those books that it's probably better to have the book because of the great photographs as opposed to the e-book. But is it available as an e-book?
No, we couldn't get it as an e-book because of the formatting. It's really difficult. And because it's a coffee table book, it's 11 by 11.
Well, that was my that's what that's what it looked like to me, because we get a lot of books through this show, and I've often said, well, that's a good e-book, but this one really is a better book. So
it is. You know what's so awesome about this book is you can feel the strength when you put your hands on it. You don't have to even open it up. You can just feel the courage in it, and the photographs you have to see the photographs to see the people, and it's just really. I'm really proud of it, so I hope everybody sees it because it's kind of life-changing to read. It really is.
Dianne, thank you for what you're doing. You're making the world a better place. The book is just the tip of the iceberg, I think. And thank you for being on the air with us to share that with us.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dianne. We'll take a little break and be right back.
We're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
You've got a garden, and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday.